Hello, my name is MG Leonard, and this is Chapter 1 of Hunt for the Golden Scarab. Sir John Soane's house. Sim Lockyer sensed a presence in the doorway behind him. His hand sprang from the piano keyboard, shooting up into the air just in time to catch the wooden staff that was flying across the living room. Flipping the stick down, he drove it into the floor, hopping off the piano stool and landing in a defensive stance. The chord he'd been playing reverberated around the room as he bowed to his mum. Sensei. Good. Calidora Lockyer bowed back. She was dressed in her uniform black joggers, vest and hoodie. The rebellious wisps of chestnut hair that had escaped her high ponytail framed her heart-shaped face, softening a determined jawline. You must always be alert to the dangers around you, she said. What dangers? Sim gestured to the living room and the kitchenette of their tiny attic flat. I'm a 12-year-old kid doing piano practice. It's time to clean, his mum said, padding to the front door like a panther. In the mornings, Calidora worked at a dojo, teaching judo, aikido and tai chi. But her main job was being the caretaker of Sir John Soane's museum. She enjoyed cleaning and would turn repetitive tasks into bodybuilding exercises, pointing out that it was like getting paid to work out at a gym. You can finish your piano practice later, Calidora told Sim, pulling back the 3 bolts, turning the key and twisting the handle. Her biceps were like ripe peas, ready to burst from their pods. Sim wondered for the millionth time what the danger was that made his mum so guarded. But there was no point in him asking. She never answered. He knew his mum had secrets. The lines on her face told of a hard life. Her strong, calloused hands kept the museum spotlessly clean. But they were also weapons. A mop and bucket stuffed with cleaning products stood in the hall. Calidora picked it up as she descended the stairs. Sim and his mum lived in the attic flat of number 12 Lincoln's Inn Fields. 230 years ago, this building and number 13, the house next door, were owned by a famous architect called Sir John Soane. Inside, he'd created a collector's paradise. Number 13 was now a museum displaying the long-dead architect's collection of art, archaeological finds, architecture, and an eclectic assortment of other fascinating objects. Number 12 housed the museum gift shop, an exhibition space, offices, and, in the eaves of the roof, the caretaker's flat, consisting of 2 small bedrooms, a titchy bathroom, and a kitchen living room. The attic flat of number 12 was Sim's favourite of the many places that he and his mum had lived. When they'd moved in 2 years ago, he'd been delighted to find an ancient, upright piano in the sitting room. It felt to Sim as if the instrument had been waiting for him. He loved it and played for hours every day. Taking a heavy bundle of keys from her pocket, Sim's mum unlocked the connecting door that led them into number 13. Cleaning took place after the museum had shut its doors at 5 o'clock. Unless Sim was at his best friend Nelson's house, he and his mum always did it together. They had a system, starting on the 2nd floor and working their way down through the public rooms. Sim was responsible for cleaning the glass, with 2 spray guns of window cleaner hanging off his belt like pistols and an arsenal of cloths. He'd wipe out finger and nose prints, spraying every cabinet door, mirror and window, polishing the glass to a flawless transparency. He particularly enjoyed cleaning the model room with its 3-tiered display case holding miniature cork reconstructions dating back to the 1800s. He was fascinated by a model of the Pompeii archaeological dig. As he buffed the glass, Sim thought about how terrifying the moment must have been when Vesuvius a stratovolcano had exploded, suspending Pompeii in time forever. He was constantly discovering treasures in the museum. Many moments from history were gathered here, paintings by famous artists, archaeological treasures, grotesque gargoyles and ancient earthenware pots. The building felt more like a time traveller's palace than an architect's house. After finishing the glass on the second floor, Sim found his mum and they went down to the first floor. The south drawing room was a large banana yellow room with a huge rug patterned with roses covering the floorboards. It had no furniture except for the portraits of Sir John Soane and his sons on the wall. Calidora set her bucket down and slipped her feet out of her trainers. Sim went to the deep window alcoves and drew the heavy golden brocade curtains, then removed his own shoes and stood opposite his mum at the far end of the rug. Their attic flat was too small to train in, but the south drawing room was perfect. "The three aims of any fight are," Calidora asked. "Deflect, disarm, disappear," Sim replied automatically. "Good." She nodded and bowed. Sim bowed back. "Now, attack me," she said. Sim darted one step forward and retreated, testing her intentions. "Come on, try and throw me." Sim tried every move his mum had taught him, but none of his punches or kicks landed. She chuckled as she threw up block after block, finally sweeping his legs from under him. She reached out a hand and pulled him back onto his feet, ruffling his dark curls. "Come on, you can do better than that, Peanut. All you need to do is unbalance me. Use your imagination." Sim retreated. His breath was coming in fast gasps. To bring down his mum, he'd have to do something that she wouldn't expect. There was a noise outside in the corridor, but he barely registered it. Darting towards his mum, he reached his hands forward as if he were going to grab her hoodie, but instead he slid his right leg forward, throwing his body behind it, as if he were doing a sliding tackle. As the lower half of his body slid through his mum's legs, he kicked his legs up, wrapping them around her waist and yanked her backwards. She lost her balance and fell. He kept his grip until she hit the floor, then rolled, putting his hands down, and bounced back up onto his feet, resuming his defensive stance. He expected his mum to cheer, as she always did when he managed to floor her. But she had sprung up faster than him. Her eyes were wide. She had thrown out a protective arm to show that he shouldn't move. And that was when Sim heard the voices. We're not supposed to let people into the museum after closing time," came the anxious tones of Mrs. Armitage from the stairwell. "I told you, we're from the British Museum," replied a deep male voice. "We won't take long." And after a moment, "You can go." I'm not really meant to." Mrs. Armitage's voice was trembling. "We don't need a chaperone." "Right, yes, of course. Sorry." Sim heard the light patter of Mrs. Armitage hurrying away. He watched a towering shadow appear on the yellow wall next to the half-open door of the south drawing room, and beside it was the silhouette of a boy about his own age. With her finger to her lips, his mum was frantically waving Sim backwards towards the door that led into the north drawing room. Sim grabbed his shoes and retreated. His mum had the energy of a coiled snake. She looked alarmed. As they slipped soundlessly into the north drawing room, his mum whispered, "We've got to get to the picture room." Sim's heart was hammering as he heard the man and boy enter the south drawing room. His mum was already at the door leading to the stairwell. He noticed her bare feet and pointed. "She's here," said the man. "How do you know?" asked the boy. "Shoes," replied the man. "Find her." Sim felt a jolt of panic at the swooshing sound of the heavy curtains being yanked aside, but he couldn't tear his eyes from the door of the south drawing-room. An icy dread had taken hold of his body, and his feet felt glued to the floor. Calidora grabbed his sleeve, pulling him across the room and out into the stairwell. "Run," she mouthed silently. "Run!"